Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session. Today, in this session, I will be discussing Professor Michael Porter's five forces model in detail. Now, Professor Porter actually emphasized that there are five forces which basically affects the profitability and attractiveness of an industry over a long term. What were those five forces? Threat of new entrants, bargaining power of buyers, threat of substitutes, rivalry among existing competitors, and bargaining power of suppliers. So let's study all the five threats one by one and understand how they impact the long term profitability or attractiveness of any industry or business. First, threat of new entrants. One of the biggest threat of any new entrant coming into the market is reduced profitability of the existing players. Why? Because increase in production. Now, if lot of new players come into the market, the production will increase, thereby causing the market supply to increase. So existing firms market shares which they have dominated 30%, 25% for a very long period of time, that will diminish. Now, what are the best ways to sell your product quickly? Give a discount as well. So the new players also often reduce the market prices to attract buyers towards them, thus eroding the profitability of the entire industry as a whole. So this is one of the biggest threats actually, because the profitability is at stake, the market share is at stake. So if whichever industry is vulnerable to this can have its profit taken away very quickly, like it happened with Reliance Jio, right? Back in 2016, Airtel, Vodafone all used to have a common charge packs, right? They used to charge us separately for the calls, and then for data it used to be 1 GB per month for 249, 2 GB per month, not per day, for 449, and so on. Geo came and they reduced the prices, started with absolutely zero. So of course that hurt the entire industry's profitability, and thus so many players today are completely out of the market. So this is one of the biggest threat of new entrants, as per Professor Porter, that the entire profitability landscape of the market can go away, and also the existing firms' market shares will diminish. Barriers to entry. Now, what is barriers to entry? It's like a barrier, a hurdle to slow down or obstruct entry into the market by another firms. Now, there are a lot of barriers to entries. Common barriers to entries includes, as stated in the second bullet point, capital requirement, economies of scale, product differentiation, switching cost, brand identity, access to distribution channels, and possibility of aggressive retaliation by existing players. So there are lots of barriers to entry. But what is a barrier to entry? Barrier to entry essentially means that there are hurdles in entering into that market. Now, they can be artificial or man made. Man made barriers today are very rare because earlier there used to be licensing policies. But nowadays, licensing policies has mostly gone away. But still, there are a lot of natural barriers which prevents competitors from entering into a different industry. Take the example, or one of the best example, of pharmaceutical industry. First of all, it requires a very high degree of specialized knowledge, right? Creating a medicine is a very difficult job. Then, even to sell that medicine is a further difficult job because patients will only buy the medicines prescribed by the doctors. So, to convince that it's a new medicine, it's a even difficult job to convince the doctors to write the medicine. Now, let's study all the common barriers one by one. Capital requirement. See, as the bullet point says, whenever a large amount of money is required or capital is required to enter an industry, generally those companies who do not have the money, effectively they are barred, right? If you need 10,000 crores or $1 billion to enter into an industry, all those companies who do not have such kind of money are effectively barred from the industry. So profitability of existing firms do increase. For example, again, you take the iron and steel industry. It's very difficult to set up an iron and steel industry at a large scale because it requires huge capital investment. So, of course, all those players who do not have such kind of money are effectively barred from this kind of industry. And so, profitability of existing players will go up over time because competitors will not be coming up. You can then increase the market prices. Then economies of scale. Economies of scale essentially means, as you must have studied in economics also, that as you keep on producing more and more units of a goods, your average cost keeps on declining. The basic phenomena behind it is that fixed cost gets spread over a larger volume of units, and variable cost also after a period of time generally declines by bulk purchases and all. So your total cost keeps on declining as the production volume keeps on increasing. So, a company that already enjoys economies of scale can produce large amount of goods at lower cost. Now, of course, new entrants cannot enter into this market because of economies of scale. Take, for example, in all the India, whatever festival we are celebrating, whether it's Deepavali or Holi, all the colors, mostly lamps, are made by Chinese companies. Why? Because they are mass producing it. So their cost is very low. If Indian companies even start, you don't reach that production level on an overnight basis. So their Indian companies' products are at least two times, three times more costly. And in a market where cost conscious customers are still there, it's very difficult to catch hold of this market. So that is why in all the festivals, most of the items we use are Chinese because the cost is simply too low to uh, compete against other players. We have to make a decision. So again, if existing players can enjoy economies of scale, the average cost has declined because over a period of time because of mass production, it discourages new players from entering into the markets, since it's very difficult to compete against those big established companies and at those prices. You cannot decide your price, right? You will have to sell at the price which is being offered in the market for similar goods, and you will maybe sell it at a loss. So it's very difficult to compete, so you are again effectively barred from the market. These are all artificial barriers. Product differentiation. Product differentiation means either the products are physically different or customers feel it that way. Either they are physical or perceptual difference that makes a product unique in the eyes of the customers. For example, think about soap. Soap. Now, there all the soaps, whatever you use, Dove, Lux, Dettol, basically they are same, right? But customers generally like one kind of soap only, Dove or Lux or Dettol or Lifebuoy, whatever. Shampoo. Basically, you tend to stick to a particular brand, so there is brand loyalty. And whenever there is brand loyalty developed, new entrants find it very difficult to sell their products in a market where customers have a unique sense of brand loyalty, like cell phones. Apple is also iPhone is also a cell phone. Samsung also produces cell phones only. But ask any iPhone customers, they are fiercely loyal to their brand. Now, because they think their product is different, may or may not be, is something else altogether. But Apple has created this unique identity. So again, if you are in a market where companies generally manufacture differences or there are perceptual differences in the eyes of the customers between different products, then it's very difficult to enter into such a market. Why? Because strong sense of brand loyalty is there. So it's very difficult to snatch away existing customers. Switching cost. Switching cost essentially means, see, don't only think from customer's point of view. Think from a little wider scale. When you switch from one thing to another thing, time is required. You have to train your staff for it. Maybe some financial cost will be involved. Now, whenever this cost is high, even if I'm not happy with my old service provider, I will stick to it. Back 10 or 11 years ago, India did not have the concept of number portability. That means if you wanted to switch from Airtel to Vodafone, the number will go away. Now, because of that reason only, that my cell phone number was given to lot of people, I could not switch, or our parents could not just switch from Airtel to Vodafone even if they were not happy, because switching cost was very high. Now you'll have to inform everybody. But whenever switching costs are very low, like today, you can simply send a message and port. Of course, you can easily port from one provider to another provider. So always remember, if switching costs are high, or if cost of switching from one supplier to another supplier is high, generally it will discourage new firms to enter into such an industry, because even if customers are not very satisfied, the cost of switching is very high, they will still stick to their old provider. On the other hand, if there is no switching cost or negligible switching cost, it's very easy to switch between suppliers. Then of course those markets will have new entrants coming in the moment they become hugely profitable. Brand identity, as I said, that brand identity which comes often from product differentiation, that can also, or that actually always serves as an entry barrier. Access to distribution channels. Now of course in today's age, many products are sold online, but still many companies rely on natural or physical distribution channels. Now, access to that creates a barrier for any other company. Think about it, 70% of India still resides in villages. So, it's very rare to find a Swiggy Instamart there, or a big basket, 10 minutes delivery there. No, you need that Kirana stores. And they generally, so you need their distribution channel to sell those products. That is why Hindustan Unilever, ITC, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, they do well all across India, because wherever you go, remotest part of India, you will generally find a person selling either Pepsi or Coca-Cola, or both perhaps. So distribution channels sometimes create an entry barrier in the markets. Bargaining power of buyers. Just give me a moment, I'll have some water. Bargaining power of buyers. This essentially means that how are buyers in the industry? Are there only few buyers who control the entire industry, or lot of buyers are there? So as written in the PowerPoint, you can see this is another force that influences the competitive condition of the industry. So this is one of the another force that can influence the competitive condition in the industry. This force actually depends, or can become very heavy, if buyers can form cartels. So if buyer can form groups or cartels, if the industry is controlled by, let's say, only 10 buyers, and all those 10 buyers come together, then you will have to sell your products because they are negotiating as a group. So buyers of an industry can sometimes exert considerable pressure on existing firms. So they exert considerable pressures whenever they have the high bargaining power in their hands to secure lower prices or better services. And this leverage becomes particularly more evident when buyers have full knowledge. They are fully aware of the products and all their substitutes. So if you don't sell it to them, they will buy their substitute product. They spent a lot of money on the industry's products. They are big buyers. So 40-80% of the market is controlled by them only. And industry's product is not critical to their need, they can easily switch to a substitute product. Now, in this case, buyers will never allow the business to fully bloom in a manner, because the moment you try to increase the prices, buyers will switch over to your competitors, substitutes. This was the status of, again, going back to the Indian telecom industry after Geo. Geo was offering, I think, used to close to 198 for 3 months plans. Other companies also used to offer similar pricing. For even 2 rupees, 3 rupees difference, we used to switch. That was the buyer's market back in 2016, the telecom market. For even 3 or 4 rupees, we were putting our number from Airtel to Geo or Geo to Vodafone. We controlled the market. We were fully aware that, okay, this is a telecom this is a telecom service provider, and we were aware of all these substitutes available. For Geo it was Airtel, Vodafone, Aircel was also there, Tata Docomo was also there. So we could have easily switched to substitute. So our bargaining power was very high then. So of course the pricing was low at that point of time, since it was essential to have us in their control, the for the sellers. Bargaining power of suppliers. Now suppliers means for the business backwards. Those who are supplying raw materials to you. Always remember, the more specialized the supplier produces, or more specialized product the supplier produces, greater will be their clout. Think about oil. There are only few oil producing nations in the world, but entire world is their customer. So generally they are the ones who decide on the prices of the oil by controlling supply. So if suppliers are limited in number, they generally have better bargaining power. They can influence your profitability in a number of ways, and they generally control this at the peak if their products are very important to the buyers. So for oil there is no low cost or a frequent substitute available, so we have not much option there. Or if they can erect high switching cost to switch from one supplier to another supplier, in those cases also suppliers will really control those markets. So till now what we have studied, just have a brief recap. First we studied threat of new entrants. If it's easy for new entrants to come into the market, the profitability of existing players will reduce. It's a stated fact, as Professor Porter pointed out. Then bargaining power of buyers. He also said that if buyers control the market, then again your profitability will not be very high over the long term. Why? Because few buyers, they can easily switch to your competitors, so they will control the market. On the other hand, if buyers have virtually no control over the market, industry's profitability will be very high over the long term. Bargaining power of suppliers. Again, he pointed out, if your suppliers control the market, supplier controlled market, you will never be hugely profitable in the long run. Why? Because the moment the suppliers see too much of money is going into your pockets, or you are making too much of profits, they will increase the prices of their raw materials. And you cannot do much because it's a supplier controlled market. On the other hand, if suppliers are very less in number, or they do not, sorry, suppliers are very large in number, and none of the suppliers can control the market, in this industry generally businesses will thrive, because none of the suppliers can exert any influence on your profits. Fourth, threat of substitutes. Again, substitute products, it's always there. So if you are in a market where a lot of substitute products are available, now what is a substitute? Substitute means a good that can, or service that can satisfy the similar want. For example, I want tea, now I can have Tata tea also, I can have any other tea also. Now that can be a close substitute. Now if you are in a market where a lot of substitutes are available for your product, and especially if the customers are cost conscious, or cheap substitutes are available for your product, Professor Porter said the businesses will never thrive in the long run. Logic: whenever you increase the price of your product, customers will switch over to your competitor. Yes, those lower quality products may also, lower price products may also be low in quality, but if they are close enough substitutes, customers generally don't care in such situations. So again, this behavior of customers with substitutes can drastically alter any competitive nature of an industry. Now, last he said was rivalry among existing competitors. So, Professor Porter said one of the factors about industry attractiveness and profitability is also the intensity of the rivalry between existing players. It can influence lot of things: cost of suppliers, distribution, attracting customers, and profitability. Generally, he said, the more intensive the rivalry, less profitable is the industry. Why? Because to snatch each other's customer, you will do huge advertisements, you will go for price cuts, you will keep on introducing new products. Now, in that case, of course, profitability of the entire industry as a whole will erode. On the other hand, if there is no virtual rivalry among existing players, why? Because they all have their own particular sets. where they control, then that industry will hugely thrive. Today, like in the same scenario, look at the telecom market today. There is virtually no rivalry among existing players, Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone. Today, Jio says I am increasing the price by 15%. 2 days later, Airtel announces the same. 5 days later, Vodafone announces the same. So they are not fighting amongst each other anymore. So of course their profitability is going up. Airtel also is posting close to 5,000 crores quarter profit after tax every quarter. Same with Jio. Vodafone is struggling because of debt and other reasons. But the thing is, whenever the rivalry among existing players in the market will decrease, generally the profits of the industry will increase, because if there is no substitute available, since they can simply increase the prices to have more they can simply increase the prices and customers do not have much of a choice here. So that's it, guys, for this session where I was discussing about Professor Porter's five forces model. So this is one of the best models for studying competitive attractiveness of any industry. It is there in CMA, also there in CA in strategic management, also there in ACCA. So it and it's widely taught across MBA curriculums across the world. So I hope you enjoyed the session. We'll see you again in next session. Till then, have a good day, everyone.